Relationships with avoidant men can often feel confusing because their actions don't always match traditional expressions of love. Many people assume that commitment means constant affection and emotional openness, but avoidant individuals tend to show love in much quieter ways. The good news is that when an avoidant man truly loves you and is becoming ready for commitment, there are clear signs that begin to emerge. In this speech, we'll explore 5 powerful indicators that reveal he's lowering his emotional walls, building trust, and preparing for a deeper, more lasting connection. One of the strongest signs that an avoidant man loves you and is becoming ready for commitment is that he starts letting you into his private world. This may not seem like a dramatic change at first, especially if you're expecting grand romantic gestures or constant emotional declarations. However, for someone with an avoidant attachment style, allowing another person access to their inner thoughts and feelings is a significant step. Avoidant individuals often learn early in life to rely on themselves. They become experts at handling problems alone, managing emotions privately, and maintaining a sense of independence that protects them from vulnerability. Because of this, opening up does not come naturally to them. When an avoidant man begins sharing things he normally keeps hidden, it means he feels safe enough to lower his defenses. He may start talking about childhood experiences, personal fears, insecurities, disappointments, or dreams that he rarely discusses with anyone else. These conversations might happen gradually and in small pieces rather than all at once. You may notice that he tells you stories about difficult moments in his life, or admits struggles that he would typically keep to himself. While this may seem ordinary compared to what emotionally expressive people share, for an avoidant person, it represents a tremendous amount of trust. Another important sign is that he begins seeking your perspective on matters that are important to him. Avoidant individuals are usually accustomed to making decisions independently. When he starts asking for your opinion, discussing personal challenges, or inviting you into conversations about his future, he is signaling that your presence has become meaningful in his life. He is no longer viewing the relationship as something separate from his personal world. Instead, he is slowly integrating you into it. You may also notice that he becomes more comfortable showing emotions around you. Rather than always appearing strong, composed, or unaffected, he may reveal moments of sadness, frustration, anxiety, or uncertainty. This willingness to be seen as imperfect is often one of the clearest indicators of emotional intimacy. It means he trusts that you won't judge or reject him for being human. The key is understanding that this process usually unfolds slowly. An avoidant man rarely tears down his emotional walls overnight. But every honest conversation, every vulnerable confession, and every glimpse into his private world is evidence that his feelings are deepening. When he consistently allows you closer to the parts of himself that few people ever see, it is often a powerful sign that love is growing and commitment is becoming a real possibility in his mind. Another powerful sign that an avoidant man loves you and is becoming ready for commitment is that he starts showing a level of consistency that wasn't present before. One of the most challenging aspects of being involved with an avoidant person is dealing with the hot and cold behavior that often accompanies their attachment style. At times, they may seem deeply interested, affectionate, and engaged, only to become distant, quiet, or unavailable shortly afterward. This inconsistency is usually not because they don't care. Rather, it often stems from their internal struggle between wanting connection and fearing the vulnerability that comes with it. When an avoidant man begins to genuinely fall in love and prepare for a committed relationship, something important starts to shift. Instead of constantly pulling away whenever the relationship becomes emotionally close, he begins to stay present more often. His actions become more predictable. You no longer feel like you're guessing where you stand from one day to the next. He starts reaching out regularly, responding more consistently, and maintaining contact even when life becomes stressful or emotionally demanding. This consistency is significant because it reflects a change in priorities. Avoidant individuals often value independence above almost everything else. When they start making a conscious effort to maintain connection, it shows that the relationship has become important enough to challenge old patterns. He may begin checking in with you during the day, following through on plans, and showing up when he says he will. These actions might seem simple, but they represent emotional growth and increasing investment. You may also notice that he becomes more dependable during difficult times. In the past, emotional intensity may have caused him to withdraw or disappear temporarily. As his feelings deepen, however, he becomes more willing to remain connected even when situations are uncomfortable. He understands that commitment requires reliability, and he starts making choices that support stability rather than distance. Consistency also appears in the way he communicates. Instead of leaving long periods of uncertainty between interactions, he develops habits that help maintain the bond. He becomes less focused on protecting his space at all costs and more focused on nurturing the relationship. This doesn't mean he suddenly becomes emotionally expressive all the time. Avoidant individuals still need personal space and independence. The difference is that they no longer use distance as their primary way of managing every emotional challenge. Over time, his steady presence begins to replace confusion with trust. His words and actions start aligning more closely, creating a sense of security that may have been missing before. When an avoidant man consistently chooses connection, reliability, and follow-through, it often reveals that his feelings have grown beyond casual interest. It is one of the clearest signs that he is not only in love, but also becoming ready for a deeper and more committed relationship. A major sign that an avoidant man loves you and is becoming ready for commitment is when he starts making future plans that include you. For many people, talking about the future is a natural part of a growing relationship. However, for someone with an avoidant attachment style, thinking too far ahead with another person can feel uncomfortable because it represents permanence, responsibility, and emotional dependence. Avoidant individuals often prefer to focus on the present, keeping their options open and maintaining a sense of freedom. That is why future planning carries so much meaning when it begins to happen naturally. At first, the changes may be subtle. He might mention a trip you'd enjoy taking together a few months from now. He may talk about events happening later in the year and automatically assume you'll be there with him. These comments can seem small, but they reveal something important. He is no longer viewing the relationship as temporary or uncertain. Instead, he is beginning to imagine a future where you remain an important part of his life. As his feelings deepen, these plans often become more significant. He may discuss career goals, financial decisions, personal ambitions, or lifestyle changes while considering how they affect the relationship. An avoidant man who is serious about commitment starts thinking beyond his own individual needs. He begins to see you as a partner rather than simply someone he spends time with. This shift in perspective is one of the strongest indicators that emotional attachment is growing. You may also notice that he becomes more comfortable discussing long-term possibilities. Topics that once made him uneasy, such as moving closer together, building a life together, or creating shared goals, no longer trigger the same level of resistance. He may not suddenly become enthusiastic about every commitment-related conversation, but he becomes more willing to engage in them without withdrawing or changing the subject. Another important sign is that his future plans become consistent with his actions. Rather than making vague promises, he starts taking concrete steps toward shared goals. He follows through on discussions, includes you in important decisions, and demonstrates that he is thinking about the relationship as something worth investing in. This practical commitment often speaks louder than romantic words. For an avoidant man, allowing someone into his vision of the future requires trust. It means he is becoming less focused on protecting himself from potential disappointment and more focused on building something meaningful. He is gradually accepting the uncertainty that comes with love because the connection feels valuable enough to take that risk. When an avoidant man regularly talks about the future and naturally includes you in his plans, it is often a powerful indication that his emotional walls are coming down. He is no longer imagining life as a solo journey. Instead, he is beginning to see a future where your presence is not just desired, but expected. And that is one of the clearest signs that commitment is becoming a real possibility. One of the clearest signs that an avoidant man loves you and is becoming ready for commitment is that he stays present during difficult conversations. For someone with an avoidant attachment style, emotional conflict can feel overwhelming. Disagreements, intense discussions, and conversations about feelings often trigger a strong desire to withdraw. This is because avoidant individuals frequently associate emotional intensity with pressure, loss of control, or vulnerability. As a result, their instinct is often to create distance when relationships become emotionally demanding. In the early stages of a relationship, an avoidant man may respond to conflict by shutting down, changing the subject, becoming emotionally unavailable, or physically creating space. He may need time alone to process what he is feeling, and sometimes that distance can leave a partner feeling confused or disconnected. However, when he genuinely loves you and is becoming ready for a deeper commitment, his behavior during challenging moments begins to change. Rather than immediately retreating, he starts making an effort to stay engaged. He may not become perfectly comfortable with emotional discussions overnight, but he becomes more willing to participate in them. Even when conversations are uncomfortable, he remains present instead of disappearing. This willingness to face emotional tension is a significant sign of growth because it shows that preserving the relationship has become more important than avoiding discomfort. You may notice that he listens more carefully when concerns are raised. Instead of becoming defensive or dismissive, he tries to understand your perspective. He may ask questions, seek clarification, and genuinely attempt to resolve issues rather than escape them. These actions demonstrate emotional investment because he is choosing connection over avoidance. Another important sign is that he becomes more accountable for his actions. Avoidant individuals sometimes struggle with discussing mistakes because doing so can make them feel exposed or vulnerable. When an avoidant man starts acknowledging his role in problems and working towards solutions, it reflects a growing level of emotional maturity. He is showing that he values the relationship enough to confront difficult truths rather than protect his ego. Staying present during conflict also means he no longer sees every disagreement as a threat to his independence. Instead of interpreting emotional conversations as demands or criticism, he begins viewing them as opportunities to strengthen the relationship. This shift is often a major turning point because it indicates that trust is developing. Commitment is not measured only by affection during good times. It is also revealed by how someone responds when challenges arise. An avoidant man who remains engaged, communicates honestly, and works through difficulties instead of running from them is demonstrating a level of emotional courage that does not come easily to him. When he consistently chooses to stay, listen, and work through problems together, it is often one of the strongest signs that his love is deep, genuine, and moving toward lasting commitment. Another powerful sign that an avoidant man loves you and is becoming ready for commitment is that he begins creating space for you in his daily life. This may sound simple, but for someone who highly values independence and personal freedom, making room for another person on a consistent basis is a significant emotional step. Avoidant individuals often structure their lives in ways that allow them to maintain control over their time, energy, and personal space. They are used to relying on themselves and may feel most comfortable when they can move through life without having to answer to anyone else. Because of this, the decision to intentionally include someone in their everyday world carries a great deal of meaning. At first, you may notice small changes. He starts reaching out more often, sharing details about his day, or involving you in activities he normally does alone. He may invite you to spend time with him during ordinary moments rather than only during special occasions. This is important because it shows that he is no longer keeping the relationship separate from the rest of his life. Instead, he is allowing it to become part of his normal routine. As his feelings deepen, he may begin introducing you to people who matter to him. Avoidant individuals can be very protective of their personal circles. They often keep relationships compartmentalized, meaning that different areas of their lives remain separate. When he introduces you to close friends, family members, or important colleagues, he is signaling that he sees you as someone who belongs in his world. He is allowing others to see the connection and acknowledging its importance. You may also notice that he starts considering your needs and preferences when making decisions. Rather than planning everything around his own schedule, he begins taking your availability, comfort, and happiness into account. This does not mean he loses his independence. Instead, it means he is learning how to balance his individual needs with the needs of a relationship. That balance is a key part of commitment. Another meaningful sign is that he becomes more present during everyday experiences. He shares updates, tells you about things that happen throughout the day, and invites you into conversations about matters that are important to him. These interactions may seem ordinary, but they create emotional closeness over time. They show that he wants you to be involved in the rhythm of his life rather than remaining on the outside looking in. For an avoidant man, love is often demonstrated through actions more than words. When he consistently makes time for you, includes you in his routines, introduces you to important people, and starts building a life that naturally accommodates your presence, he is showing that the relationship has become a priority. He is no longer protecting every corner of his life from outside influence. Instead, he is creating room for partnership, connection, and shared experiences. That willingness to make space for you is often one of the strongest signs that he is moving toward genuine and lasting commitment. Perhaps the most meaningful sign that an avoidant man loves you and is ready to commit is that he begins choosing connection over independence more often. This does not mean he suddenly stops valuing his personal freedom or becomes someone who constantly seeks closeness. Independence is a core part of how many avoidant individuals navigate the world. It has often served as a source of safety, control, and emotional protection for much of their lives. What changes is not the importance of independence itself, but the way he begins balancing it with intimacy. Avoidant individuals are often caught in an internal conflict. On one hand, they desire love, companionship, and meaningful relationships just like anyone else. On the other hand, deep emotional closeness can trigger fears of losing autonomy, becoming vulnerable, or getting hurt. Because of this, they may instinctively pull away whenever a relationship starts becoming more serious. They create distance not necessarily because they lack feelings, but because closeness can feel overwhelming. When an avoidant man truly falls in love and starts moving toward commitment, this pattern gradually shifts. Instead of automatically choosing distance whenever emotions intensify, he begins choosing connection. He becomes more willing to stay emotionally engaged, even when vulnerability feels uncomfortable. He starts recognizing that intimacy is not a threat to his freedom, but a valuable part of a healthy relationship. You may notice that he reaches out more often, not because he feels obligated to do so, but because he genuinely wants to maintain the bond. He begins seeking your company during important moments in his life, and may even turn to you for support during stressful situations. This is significant because avoidant individuals often prefer to handle challenges alone. Choosing to lean on someone else requires a level of trust that does not develop easily. Another sign is that he becomes more comfortable expressing affection and emotional warmth. He may initiate conversations, check on your well-being, or make efforts to strengthen the connection without being prompted. These actions indicate that he is no longer viewing emotional closeness as something that must be carefully controlled or limited. Over time, he starts making relationship decisions based not only on what protects his independence, but also on what strengthens the partnership. He becomes more willing to compromise, invest time, and prioritize shared experiences. Rather than seeing commitment as a restriction, he begins seeing it as an opportunity to build something meaningful with someone he trusts. This transformation does not happen overnight. There may still be moments when he needs space or struggles with vulnerability. The difference is that he consistently returns to the relationship instead of retreating from it. He chooses to work through discomfort rather than avoid it. When an avoidant man repeatedly chooses connection, emotional closeness, and partnership over the safety of complete independence, it is often the clearest sign that his love is genuine and that he is becoming ready for a lasting and committed relationship.